You know, I don't know how rigid Brian is going to be, but 5 minutes is no time to try to tell the history of the Tuskegee Airmen as we experienced it. I don't know what's on the agenda later on, Brian, but I feel uncomfortable trying to bring a capsulization in 5 minutes.
You take some more time.
Excellent. What I would like to point out initially, this young man is sitting at the table over there next to my wife was 63 years. Someone who's put up with me for that period of time. This young man, he deserves plaudits for what he's going into, and it sort of brought up a parallel situation that we had back in New York City when we had a convention there. I guess it was 1984 or thereabouts, in the Trade Center buildings of all places. And at that time, I was in the company of Bill Wiley's dad, who was sitting next to my wife, who was a Tuskegee Airman from the 3rd class. Well, he and I were going through the bowels of the Trade Center one morning, trying to find a place to eat. And so as we got into the bowels where all the little shops were, nothing was open, and all of a sudden we hear this roar, and all of a sudden we see 1,000 heads that look like, and all of a sudden we start getting vertigo, and we realize that we're at the outlet for a station, a subway station, and all these people in it going to work. So anyhow, we get outside the building, and I look across the street, and there's a little restaurant where we get some breakfast. And so we go in, and the restaurant was about 200 feet long and 2 feet wide, and as you went through, you had your little tray, and you push that little tray along to holler at somebody behind the counter that has a chef hat on, what number you wanted. Could be bacon and eggs, could be a hamburger, could be whatever. And you keep on down the line, get coffee. And then at the end, you paid the cashier. When you went into the little empty room to eat your breakfast, I found out the secret to the Wall Street Journal being able to be folded so easily, because there are all these people at the little tables with the little trays, Wall Street Journal, and they're preparing to go to work. And I said, excuse me, Chris, we've been out here to the Pacific Northwest where we have natural trees and all that kind of stuff. I said, these guys have to go through this all the time, every day. We can't stand that. But in any event, that's just a little story. But getting back to the young man who has the opportunity to go on the fly. At the Trade Center that year, we had a young lady who announced that she had just graduated from USC with an ROTC commission. Her name was Stacy Harris. She said that the Tuskegee Airmen had influenced and inspired her so much she was going to college to learn how to fly. That young lady not only went to college or to that training to learn how to fly. 2 years ago, we had our convention in Las Vegas. And 2 years ago, we pinned a star on that young lady. So she was quite successful in her military experiences, plus being a commercial pilot for United Airlines. So there are outstanding things out there for you, and we congratulate you. We are really happy to go to our conventions and see the young black kids with stars and stripes and all this rank. I mean, we had something to do with it. We opened the door. They came in, they did what we all did when we went down through Tuskegee. We showed that we could master the aircraft. We could master those things that back there in 1925, I guess it was, the War Department, Army War Department had a study made of the utilization of blacks in the military. Now, remember now, we were officially segregated in this country for a long time. I'm sure that there's some folks here who remember that. They determined that the black man was inferior. The black man was subservient. The black man had sort of key brain. The black man couldn't handle complicated situations. The black man didn't have courage. And so that coupled with the fact that officially the country was segregated, meant that the black man couldn't get into a situation where he could show what he could do. Now, it brings us to an area where, when I was 1932, in 1932, I was affiliated with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now how? Back in those days, Roosevelt was running for president, and back in those days, we didn't have the TV and all this other stuff. So they used to make little picture signs, vote FDR. Well, me, I don't know how I got into it. I had some of those little signs, I took them out to the store to place in their window to convince people who wanted to buy to vote for this stuff. At the same time, Benjamin Davis Jr. was awarded an appointment to West Point. Benjamin Davis Jr., who I'm sure that everybody in this room has some knowledge of, went through West Point under the silent treatment for 4 years. Now, I guess we all know what the silent treatment meant. He didn't have anybody communicating with him because, first off, no one to see him fail. The guy didn't fail. Unfortunately, he didn't fail. Okay, he got through. When he got through, one of the first things that he wanted to do was fly. So he applied for aviation training. It wasn't available to blacks. At that time, you can't mix blacks and whites on the same team in the same airplane, and we don't have any program set up for blacks. So he was denied. When he got into the cadet training program, and being in the first class, he was a captain. So he'd been a long time waiting to start the flight. Okay, so he's a captain. When they had established that they were going to make the 99th Fighter Squadron, black unit. Now there was a whole lot of background to this. I mean, it sounds a lot quicker than, there was a lot of agencies and groups of people who were trying to get Roosevelt to agree to setting up a program for blacks to learn how to fly. Now getting back to Roosevelt, in 1936, he ran for president again, for re-election. He made it. In 1936, B.O. Davis graduated from West Point after all the crappy treatment that he was given. Anyhow, comes along in 1940, and so B.O. Davis again, but not B.O. Davis, but the president again, runs for office and he wins. 1941, we all know we were hit at Pearl Harbor. Up to that time, there was all kinds of formulations and plans to get a flying function available for blacks. Roosevelt was working on that. He was having those difficulties back there in Washington with all those people he had to coordinate with to get this thing established. So his wife goes to Tuskegee on some business with the hospital there. And his wife notices that, hey, there are black people flying airplanes down here. Tuskegee had a flying training program. And there were blacks flying. And she said, well, I might as well ride with one. You know what the Secret Service did about that? They didn't feel too good about her getting in the airplane with a black man. She got in the airplane anyhow. You know, woman's rights. Anyhow, she got in the airplane and she flew. She was satisfied. She was impressed. Went back to Washington. Frankly, what's the problem? I flew with one of them. But anyhow, going down the road a bit further, B.O. Davis graduates in first class. There were 13 people in first class. There were 5 people who graduated. B.O. Davis, being the senior person, he was an officer when he went through with the cadets. So he is the head forming a squadron cadre, 99th Fighter Squadron, which had been designated by the War Department to be established. We're going to have this black fighter unit, and we'll have them participating in the war. Okay, so the 99th completes 26 pilots or whatever it is that was needed at that time for a squadron. Then they had to sort of search around to see what commander wants this black unit to come to.